I've added a couple of instruments to the channel rack and I created a couple of new patterns. I cloned the bass pattern and it's named bass number 2 by default, and I edited a few notes in the piano roll to change the pattern a bit, and I created a new little pattern called chords with this synth sound, and then I cloned that and created a little variation. Now we're going to work with the playlist in this video, and this is a way of assembling all our patterns into a song. So first thing we need to do is switch this to song mode. So when that's lit, we're in the pattern mode as we've been working in, and when it's off, we're in playlist mode. And we can view the playlist over here, and we can get to it from one of three ways. We can right-click here, and that'll toggle the playlist view. If you're not viewing it, that's one way to get to it. Or we can use this icon here, or we can use F5. And I'm going to resize it here so we can see it a bit bigger. Now we can zoom and scroll, and the tools are very similar to what we saw in the piano roll. And I'm going to use the control key in my mouse wheel to just zoom a little bit so we can see a bit bigger here what we're doing. That should be fine. Now, the idea is that we use this clip pattern selector to choose a pattern clip, and then we click in an empty space inside a track, and it's that simple. They can be in any order we want on any track, and it's important to remember that the tracks in the playlist here are not connected directly to the mixer tracks. It's the instruments in the channel rack here that are connected to the mixers. So these are mainly for organizational purposes, so you can arrange the clips in a meaningful way to you. And there's also a mute button on each track. And like we've seen before, we can control click and it becomes a solo button by muting everything else. So let's select a pattern here. I'm going to go Drums 02, and we have the draw tool. We can use this paint tool to paint in a series of them like that to draw in quick iterations. And we can right click and delete, and we can swipe across to delete multiple ones. Let's start with the regular draw tool, and I'll draw in a couple of these 2-bar patterns. Let me just drag that over, and there we go. And the snap mode works the same way as we've seen in the piano roll. So with that done, let's select another clip. I'm going to select maybe my bass pattern, and I'll put that over here, that 2-bar bass pattern, and let's just listen to that. So now I can use the play button over here, like we saw in the piano roll. It works the same way with the playhead. We can position it where we want, and it'll start from there, and we can right-click to return to the position we started from, or right-click again to go back to the beginning, or we can just use the space bar. All right, that's good, and it loops it over and over again. So let me select another pattern now. I'm going to go to my 2-bar drum pattern, and I'll put one instance of that in over there. And I'm going to go to the alternate bass pattern and put that in over here. I'm just going to slide that over. So now we have a little 4-bar pattern. That's working nicely. I'm going to try some of the chords now. So here's my simple chord pattern. I'm going to put that on this track. And again, you don't have to put it here. You can put it wherever you want. And I'll put that one there. And I'll put my variation on the last two over here. I'll leave one blank maybe and put this one over here. I think I'm going to put this here and leave this one blank as a kind of fill. So that's basic arranging. Now there's a couple of things we can do. We can right click to delete a clip like I showed you. We can switch clips. So once we have an arrangement, let's say I want to try maybe one of the other drum patterns here. I can click over here. It's regular left click, and I can change the pattern. Maybe I want to try the first drum pattern. So we can switch any of them like that. And we can also use this playback tool over here to audition the individual clips. And just one little digression here, these chords, just to show you what's happening, I'm going to right click here and open the piano roll for a moment. All I did was pencil in notes like we did in the last video, but just stacked some on top of each other to get the chords. There's no big mystery there. So back to the playlist, we can use these other tools to mute, and we can splice the same way. And if we have that setting in the options like I showed you last video, we can right click in the background with the regular tool. There we go. And we get that split tool where we can split however many we want. I'm not going to split any for now. And we can also name and color the tracks. So what I'm going to do is right click, and we get a variety of options we can do here. I'm going to go rename, and I'll call this drums. And I can also choose a color from this palette over here. And then I'll just hit enter, and I can name this one base. And again, you can organize these in whatever way is meaningful for you. It doesn't have to be sort of linear like this. I'm just doing a simple example. I'll call this one keys, and I'll give it a different color like that. Oh, that wasn't a good color. There we go. So that's it. So that's basically pattern mode. We have a little 4-bar song. Let's just listen to it. Let's switch back to song mode. So that's working nicely. We'll continue with more in the next video.